Call the meeting to order. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
Ken Reinhardt,
Yes.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
and Brian Smith.
Yes.
Approval of minutes. Approval of the minutes, anybody?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Financials.
Hold on, I
Gotta call
gotta
for a
call.
vote.
I'm sorry, I'm still.
That's okay.
Kenny Reinhardt,
Yes.
Brian Smith,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
and Dean Reister.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, now the financials.
I do have a question. What is that car meter? It says car meter for $600. What is that?
Chlorinator?
Okay.
No, it's a meter.
Meter,
It's a
yeah.
meter. There's broken. They needed a new one. It's to read different levels of chlorine and stuff. I had to order it from, I believe, Granger for Curtis.
Okay.
US Blue Book.
Oh, US Blue Book, right. Because they had it in stock. Granger did not. Good call, Dean.
I don't have anything else.
And the chips for the 7 radios, is that our police and EMS radios?
That's
or-
all EMS fire.
That's the EMS radios that, what was that called that we
Marks.
use? Marks radios. Is that what that is? Is that something we have to update every now and then or just?
If I understand right, they went to a new
Something different?
programming, and you have like so many years to switch over. I
Okay.
think it's maybe the end of 2023, and Ashley maybe had the money in the budget, and they just got theirs done.
So these should be good for a few years anyway.
Theirs, now, you still got the other departments that will still have to do theirs.
Okay.
I think George maybe just came in. I don't know if I heard George, but if so, he'll probably be able to tell you too, because he's gonna have to do it to his.
That's fine. Well, I just kind of want to understand a little bit what is the Marks radios.
Any other questions on financials?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Ken Reinhardt,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yeah.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Brian Smith.
Yes.
Okay. Visitors, Bill Boylan tonight.
Okay, I'm here to represent the planning and zoning commissioners. We believe you have some material in your packets for changes for zoning. It'll be handled in new business, but wanted to let everybody know that we did have necessary public hearings to cover the public, and we did have good response with that. I think everybody that come to the hearings was pleased when they left. So when you get to these, if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them the best of my ability if I can. So just wanted to let you know that we had done some effort into this, and hopefully that you guys will agree that it's worth doing.
George, you're up.
Any questions? What's the new radios do? Or whatever they're talking about? Chips.
The chips for the Marks
They have
radios.
to put in the radios?
I didn't put ours in.
You haven't, but
You still got to do yours yet at some point.
That's till 2025.
Yeah, what does it do?
I think that they may become like a part of the radio. You know what I'm saying? So like you don't have to spend the extra money to put the chips in. So I was kind of holding out.
Oh,
2025, you said?
Huh?
2025, you said?
2025 is
Okay.
what you said you got to put it.
So we need to spend that money.
is that what Ashley was doing with theirs? They just bought 7 new chips
Yeah,
for the
I
radio.
talked to Bruce Whitehammer, and he said, you know, that the price is this right now. You know, eventually, Cause our radios now, I mean, they're getting old enough to where if you hold out, you probably could just buy a new radio for what you're paying for this changeover, or to put the chip in it. So I just figured hold out and wait. The radio's already over a year old. He said it should become cheaper. It's like any new technology, it's expensive at first, and if you kind of wait, it'll drop. That's why I wait.
How long do you expect your radios to usually last?
It's like anything. I mean, I don't know. I would hope that they would, we would get maybe 8 to 10 years out of them, but I don't know. Technology changes so fast.
How long have you had them?
When did we come out with Mark systems? Anybody remember?
I'm thinking like,
It's like about
2
10
years
No, it
ago.
wasn't that early.
I think maybe 10 years, but
you just switched over to the marks. We did that about 3 years
I was
ago.
gonna say, probably 3 years now. So that's probably
Because we switched the
5 years
village
old.
over in an ordinance or
It's
something.
kind of a gradual thing with marks.
We had to switch though.
No, I was just answering
Yeah.
his question.
Well, we got no choice.
Any other questions for George?
I don't have any.
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
I assume if you've seen Facebook, or I don't know if Brian mentioned it, the stop sign down here at Canal and Erie is now an actual, Main and Canal is now an actual stop. You no longer can continue right. Yeah. I'm kind of disappointed with the state. You know, they didn't notify me, they didn't notify Brian. I didn't know it till a deputy was behind me, and like 20 minutes after they'd taken the sign down, he goes, "Hey, just so you know, there's no sign there anymore." I'm like, "What are you?" So I drive down, and then he explains to me that the state said that that was an illegal sign, so they took it down, and so now it's a stop.
Awesome.
You can
what
fly-
about the one turning left from the north? Do you have to stop now?
There's
You can
already a
still
stop
go
sign there.
from- It's just
Oh, you
gonna
mean
be
the one down
from-
at Erie Canal?
Just when you're heading south,
Yeah.
you just make the curve. You don't have to
Yeah,
stop.
there's no
So,
stop sign.
so you don't have to stop going that way, but you do going this way. That's awkward.
Yeah, it makes
That's
sense.
gonna make for fun.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
trying to
it's-
remember
you know,
which
already
way.
people's chiming in that it's we're gonna be writing tickets, and no, come on, we're gonna use common sense.
Right.
I hope nobody gets the cruiser running it on video, because it's gonna be a lot to get used to
Right.
for all of us.
Right? Yeah.
I'm just being honest.
All of us do. It's been that way for
I
like
was gonna
30
say,
years.
when was it changed?
Today,
Okay, I
around
was gonna say I
1
probably
o'clock.
already ran it, but okay.
We probably all do, I've ran it, you know, to, I mean,
It
but,
was this weekend I ran it.
so, you know, it's gonna take some time.
It's been that way as long as I've been here.
That's what, I've been here 23 years or so, and it's been that way.
Didn't like that
Victoria says it
forever.
was that way when she was a kid.
Yeah.
So evidently, somebody at the state level now feels that it's an illegal sign.
Where's our ODOT man from
It would have
Antwerp?
been nice, right, to let us know, hey, in a month from now, we're gonna take this
Yeah.
down. We could have made a post, we could have put it in the paper, let our citizens know.
Even a day before they did it.
And in my mind, we could have even put some signage up that, you know, on this date, this sign will be coming.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything.
Too easy to let people know, I guess.
Yeah.
The world of communication.
There you go.
Okay, Amy. Oh,
Thanks, sir.
Okay, we are doing the third and final reading on, holy, this stack is heavy. 2022. An ordinance authorizing the village fiscal officer to transfer $5,000 from the general fund to the street lighting fund.
I'll make a motion to accept. That's Bryce, in case you don't have our voices yet.
I'll second.
That was Jason. Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Jason Franks.
Yes.
Steve Jordan.
Yes.
Ken Reinhardt.
Yes.
Dean Reister.
Yes.
Brian Smith.
Yes.
The next one is June. A second reading for ordinance number 2022-23, an ordinance to establish the time and place of regular meetings of the council for the village of Antwerp, Paulding County, Ohio for calendar year 2023. The The next one is also a second reading. This is ordinance number 2022-24, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2018-17, an ordinance increasing water rates for the village of Antwerp, county of Paulding, Ohio, specifically amending sections 2 and 5 of ordinance number 2018-17 to increase the minimum charge for each tap effective January 1st, 2023. We have emergency reading on ordinance number 2022-25, an ordinance accepting the final plat of the Mommy Landing subdivision, phase 11, lot 20, to the addition to the village of Antwerp, Paulding County, Ohio, pursuant to ordinance number 94-17, and declaring the same an emergency.
Make a motion to suspend the rules and 3 readings.
I'll second.
Dean Reister.
Yes.
Kenny Reinhardt.
Yes.
Bryce Steiner.
Yes.
Jason Franks.
Yes.
Steve Jordan.
Yes.
And Brian Smith.
Yes.
I'll make a motion we approve.
I'll second that. Go ahead, Steve.
I'll second that.
Kenny Reinhardt.
Yes.
Steve Jordan.
Yes.
Bryce Steiner.
Yes.
Jason Franks.
Yes.
Dean Reister.
Yes.
And Brian Smith.
Yes.
Here's another one to sign, Jim. Emergency reading to
County
resolution
condition
number 2022-10, a resolution designating a central business district in the village of Antwerp, Ohio, and declaring the same an emergency.
Why does this need to be an emergency?
Time frame in order for us to qualify for a grant.
Okay.
We had applied for a grant through the county commissioner's CDBG funding. The state came back and said we had to expand the downtown area. We already have a district from like 1996. So we have to do it in order to file the paperwork in a timely manner.
Will this be changing our zoning from
Yeah.
B1?
Has nothing to do with zoning whatsoever. It just creates a new boundary on the map.
Oh.
The village will get larger.
So
The downtown,
Yeah.
this had said it was highlighted in yellow, but obviously I don't have color
Yeah.
on what they're talking. Is it
Majority
basically the
official
border
one.
of the map that we're looking at?
That's-
Here, pass this
That's
around,
the
it's the
one.
official one, that'll go in the ordinance book, it's highlighted.
I just provide a color copy.
The CBD has nothing to do with marijuana, right?
CBDG.
Okay, because on here it just says CBD.
It's central business.
Oh, I'm
district.
sorry, yeah.
Okay, it's not that business that was gonna go in
No.
at Ole's now.
That's
Okay,
not-
we're not talking about that. It's not,
No.
not related.
Nope,
Okay,
does not affect zoning, it just makes it permissible for me to get grant funding for a railroad street.
They didn't include that? Is it already part of one?
so does that extend it from like Wentworth to Cruz? Is that what this is showing?
Sorry guys, I didn't even read it, so I didn't know it needed color, but if you give me that, I can make color
It
copies.
goes
real
over
quick.
to Oswald, splits down here, just north of Washington.
Or do you want her to make a color copy
Yeah,
so she
that
can
would
pass
make
that
some
around?
copies.
Amy can make a color
That's fine. I was
copy.
just kind of wondering what the old one was and what the new one is, if we could see
That's
the
the old one.
change. So the board boundary of this, and I seen where you had the other one. I can see it here now. Now that I see that, now I can see it. Yeah, now you can see it. It's gray.
That's my lineage, Jan.
Yep. Glad we got him.
Okay.
Except on Friday.
Ah,
And this is, we're doing this to include some property into the business district, or we just
Yes.
needed to?
We're expanding it physically.
that won't change anybody's property taxes or anything, right?
Has no bearing on anything, other than the fact we're just expanding the downtown business district.
The central business
And
district.
why is this? Why?
In order for us to qualify for a grant, the state came back and said that we had to expand the downtown business district. I said, okay.
Is
So
that
they provided a map.
like square footage expand? Just, they said you need more square footage.
They didn't really say, they just
Okay.
said you need to do it and have it done in the time frame where you won't get the funds.
Okay.
I mean, that's,
I'm picking up what you're putting down, slowly. It's been a long day.
What is it here?
What's the grant targeted for?
Railroad Street.
Okay.
Oh,
So that's where we're moving this down.
so
to-
the red line is to get the grant to redo this,
That is correct.
okay.
Okay.
That makes a little more sense.
Sidewalk and
Okay.
road.
It was in there, I see what you're
I'll make a
saying.
motion to do whatever needs done to accept this, suspend the rules. There you
I'll
go.
second that.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Eddie Reinhardt,
Yes.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Brian Smith.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Jason Franks,
Yes.
Ben Reinhardt,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Steve Jordan,
Yes.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
and Brian Smith.
Thank you.
And last, we have an emergency reading on ordinance number 2022-26, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the Village of Antwerp, Ohio to amend certain permitted uses, accessory uses, and conditional uses in A1 agricultural, R1 single family, R2 multiple family, B1 business, B2 business gateway, commercial districts, and the table in section 311 to reflect these amendments, to add section 311C on off-street loading requirements, to amend section 511 on complaints regarding violations, and to amend sections 903 and 904 on swimming pools and declaring the same an emergency.
So what is in the middle here is probably what Bill was referencing. That's the Exhibit A that will be attached to this ordinance. But these are the itemization of the sections that are affected. But if you look in that, it's highlighted what's added and redlined to show what's being removed.
And I
So-
emailed that to all council members today, so
Yeah.
you have the physical, because it's 77 pages, so.
I didn't have a lot of time to review it, but there was something that I thought wasn't quite right. And Bill, you can correct me. Did you read it after it was approved? Or after he made it?
I got what you got. I got a copy that's been highlighted.
Okay. Where it says the exception on page 71, if you have the safety cover, it says they don't need to comply with this section. It almost sounds like they don't have to comply with any of the rules there, that section. And I thought that was just for 3, line item 3.
Does that say anything about as far as what the state's required? There was the state had set up some sort of a standard for in-ground pools, and if they met that particular standard, then that was all required. But we didn't supersede anything that the state had already established.
Right. Well, it sounds like, okay, they don't have to go by the property lines anymore, and they don't have to go by what it's intended for, family and guests,
Can you see it, Bill?
which it sounds like that. So it sounds like they don't have to abide by the section anymore. And I thought it was only part 3 they wouldn't have to abide by. But
I'm not
Yeah,
sure
so
how.
maybe if council, you have the right to modify. These are recommendations that were made and the public hearing was set on, but you have the right to accept, modify, or deny. So if you want it to be worded more clearly, that's up to council, has the right to do that.
But it's in section 3.
I know, but it's in line item 3, but that whole section of 904, it says, because it says section 904 above that heading, and it specifically states they don't have to listen to that section of 904 if they comply with Rule 3. And I don't think that's what was intended. I could be wrong.
I see what you're saying. I think it's just a clarity issue.
Yeah, I think
because,
it's just a
I mean,
clarity issue. I think maybe
like
it should
everything's
just say,
right, but it should just basically say.
It should probably say comply with section 903, line item 3, right? Is that
that's
you're
what
kinda saying?
I'm thinking is that
What it should say?
yeah, just 3. If you have
Because
the
you
exception, then line item, because I don't think you'd want the other 1 and 2 to be excluded from that section just
Right.
because you complied
Do
with
you
an
think,
AC.
did you want the property line issue there, or it was just in the matter of not having fencing or wall requirement?
It's the
Was that
safety
the
requirement.
exception?
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
a safety
Yeah.
requirement. We
So
couldn't
really
govern
the
it or.
exception just applies to the fencing and wall requirement. right? Is
You
that?
don't-
That's what I'm
That was
thinking
the
too.
intent, yes.
Okay.
Because section, or line 2 is property line, and line 1 is, saying it's used for private property.
So what council could do is you could pass this ordinance, we could insert language as modified, we could insert language in section 1, moves to adopt the recommendation, be amended and set forth in this ordinance with the modification as follows. So if you want to do that, we can do it and get this done tonight. Is that, I would think you'd want that for both of those sections, 903 and 904, that exception is just to the wall and fencing requirement.
Right,
of
and
both.
you know, this applies to this line item rather than
Do you want my computer?
the entire section. I'm
Oh,
not
I
sure
just
how to
read it
word
out.
that, but I don't
I
think,
can write something down and read it, and if it's, if you guys approve that,
I'd rather you
I
write it
would
down
think
than
if
me.
you just stated,
Yeah,
you don't have to apply to 903, line 3.
line item 3,
well, but on the only thing is on
except
90,
exception isn't in there.
when you have 903.3 deals also with how close they are to the property line, so I think it's just the exception applies to having a fencing or wall, so that's what I
Yeah.
would say. Okay.
Should that be like its own, yeah,
I would just make it clear on the exception language that we're modifying the exception. I would put exception to fencing and wall requirement, colon, and
okay,
then that modification.
I think so.
Okay?
I think that was the
You put
intent
down.
of the people,
Yeah.
of the group.
So has everybody
I
had
didn't
a
have a long
chance
time to look at
read
it.
through this thing?
Have not.
Because, I mean, I have not, and I don't wanna vote on something I haven't had a chance to read through.
And so then we'll have to start the process over, which is fine, but you have to act in within 30 days of the public hearing and that public hearing.
So
We're at
are
the
we
30,
close to
we're
that?
at the 30th day.
Yes.
Today is it.
So we're
Sorry, it was
going
just-
on the recommendation from our zoning committee,
Right,
so that's kind of where we're at.
gotcha.
It was just received by, well, it wasn't even received by Mel, right, Mel?
I noticed it in the council packet when I looked at it Friday afternoon that we needed an ordinance.
Yeah, I'm not,
So-
I'm not, I'm not blaming anyone, I'm just saying.
So I didn't have any more notice than
When we do
anybody
this,
else.
Say, I
zoning, that
just looked-
30-day deal really cuts thin, and we really heavily rely on the recommendation from the zoning, and that was a good catch from Bryce to see that, but it looked like it was already highlighted in that. I mean, because that was the change. You
This
just
is
didn't
the
care for the wording on the
highlighted,
change.
yeah.
Right.
You was in that meeting though, weren't you?
Right, and that's why I think that was the intent, was not
Sure.
to cut out the rest of it, but,
Yeah, we're not getting away with the property lines and turning it into a commercial pool in someone's backyard. That's
Yeah.
basically.
I
we're
was
not gonna
wanting
allow
to,
that. Charge admission.
So if we don't vote on it, they have to go back through and have another public hearing, and then we have 30 days at that point.
Yes.
That's what I would like to do.
And I can just change the ordinance. I wrote it down so I don't forget.
What does it go to vote though, to see if?
Yeah, we're gonna run this through right now, I guess, but with changes that you've got.
So
Right, you
they
said
still
we
wanna
can
go
pass
vote.
this with the change that you're gonna
Yeah,
add.
I wrote it in.
language.
So what I put, if y'all look at, the ordinance that you have, when it gets to the now therefore, I put, the council of the village of Antwerp, Paulding County, Ohio, that the council adopts the recommendation of the planning and zoning commission, approves the amendments to the zoning ordinance with the following modifications. And then section 1, I added in the third line where it talks about, as amended as set forth in the detail above in the recitals of this ordinance, with the modification to sections 903 and 904, that the exception of a power safety cover only applies to the wall or fence requirement. Is that acceptable? That's the modification I heard, and that's how I put it in.
That's the only one.
That's the only thing I've heard from the.
As far as
that's, I should say, I haven't had time to look through it to see if the changes did get made, to what
And I
my
have,
understanding was.
Friday afternoon, when I discovered this, I went through this in detail,
Yeah,
and this is, I made this list,
okay,
and then I have emailed that to Gabe, and he has approved it, because I wanted to make sure I caught everything, because I
Yeah.
did it, I kind of last
And
minute,
this isn't changed.
and he approved this.
Okay.
The only thing that I caught that I thought was off was one of the subsections, and I corrected it because I think there was a misnumbering. I put what I think it should be numbered, and that is the 302, I can tell you specifically.
Section, it's number 2 on your
It's the section 303,
3023.
yeah.
3033 or 302?
3023.
I went to new pages.
Windows.
So when you look at this section 302, it goes 30201, 30204. There's obviously a misnumbering here. So I did it the way it should be. It should go 1, 2, 3 is the accessory uses. So that's what I referenced in the ordinance, because that'll just have to be a numbering thing that has to be corrected. But I did point that out to Gabe when I sent him this list.
Okay.
So I did go through it, and he said my summary captured the proposal.
Yeah, the ordinance that you guys have is the original ordinance that was probably established back in 1989 or whenever.
No, this is the one I think that was just amended and accepted. What was that? That wasn't
Not very long ago.
Earlier this
You might want to
year.
look at that here. I didn't
Yeah.
I think he just
that
means it was
windmills
the
were
original
underneath
one with
that we
revisions.
talked about.
Yeah, this one that just was updated not that long ago.
Yeah, that was, the windmills is something we talked about early on.
Okay.
And what we found was that it was, the way it was set up, they could have put one in my backyard. That's still, the house behind, the field behind my house is still listed as agriculture. And they could stick it right next to Canal Street or to Erie Street if the farmer deemed they wanted one, and there's no stopping it.
Behind
But it
Kevin
is
Bill's.
inside the city corporation, so that's why it, we couldn't control it unless we actually specified an A1 area cannot have a windmill as far as
Okay.
that. That was the reason we stuck that in there, because there was nothing in there to stop it before.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules of 3 readings.
Other than, you didn't find anything else wrong with it when you went through it?
I just am the scrivener.
Yeah.
I was not involved in the actual amendment. I just wrote the ordinance.
Well,
But if these are the only changes then.
That's
So
what,
like
when I
if we
looked
get
through
through this
that,
list and everything looks good on this list, then in theory.
I
we-
didn't do a comparison myself. I just used the highlighted red line version I was provided.
Gotcha.
And that's what, when I went through it, and I did it a couple of times because I didn't want to miss anything, that's what I found. And again, I shared my list with Gabe to make sure I caught everything, and he said I did.
There's 12 items on here.
Yeah,
yeah.
interspersed throughout, so that's again why I wanted to make sure somebody else looked at my
You made a
list.
motion to suspend the rules, right? I'll second. David's motion.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
Kenny Reinhardt,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner. Can they have time to review it before sending it?
Yeah, we can take them
Yeah.
as long as they want.
Yeah, which one? Yeah, you want time, or yeah, you're suspending the rules?
Actually, I kind of want time.
And I can kind of tell you the pages, Bryce, if that helps.
Well, I'm
I think I
looking
did
at
a
'em.
list maybe that had the pages. Here's my list. Did I do the pages? No, I just did section numbers. Which one are you on, Bryce?
Well, okay, I was on the land uses, on the land uses chart on 311,
Okay.
and
So
what
then
is changing on that? Is that for Family Dollar?
Now, what is changed on section 311 is capturing everything they changed in the prior section. So it changed the permitted uses in A1 by striking, it removed the dairy farming and livestock farming, so you'll see that's updated under agricultural uses. And then under, it removed windmills as accessory uses. You see that right there? So those are the 3 changes there. And that should cover 1 and 2 of the list of 12. And then you'll see where they added swimming pools as an accessory use in R1 and R2.
I see the swimming pools, and but I don't see the windmills.
It's up on the agricultural use.
Is it not highlighted in yellow?
It's
Oh, it's in
stricken,
red.
it's red line.
Yes,
So anything
okay.
that's removed is a
Gotcha.
red line. Anything that
Gotcha.
was added is a yellow highlight.
Okay, so this here, when it removes windmills, it just says it could go either way.
No, it's
Since it's not
removing
listed.
it as a permitted use. So you have, this table
Okay.
this table is just a summary of what's back here.
Gotcha, right.
So if you look back to the section on agricultural uses, it's just updating it to now have just those as the permitted uses. It's removing those two.
Okay,
And then accessory uses, it's just removing that one. So
Okay.
all the table does is capture what's in those sections. So that's why I put on my list, when you look at 8 where it says section 11, it's reflecting the amendments noted in 1 through 7.
okay.
And then that table, there's a new section right behind that table, so that would be at page,
Do you wanna look at this one while they're doing it? Don't write on it, but it's got the yellow lines and all that, while they're
that's
discussing
page
it.
33 is that new section after the table on off-street loading requirements. That was
Okay.
all highlighted, so that's why I put it as a
Okay.
new section.
Every building used for non-residential purposes, which customarily receives or distributes goods by order shall provide sufficient space
Yeah, 11,
on the
12.
premises for all loading and services purposes on the basis of the following minimum regulation. What was the point of the off-street loading?
We had, well, this lot right next to us, the old Kmart property, which is gonna be the Family Dollar.
Yeah,
They wanted to use the side street for
okay,
loading and offloading, so we had to make sure that they had enough room that they could get the trucks clear off the road and not have it sticking out into the highway itself while the semi was being loaded and unloaded. So that's part of what that was changed, as well as the width of the driveway, so when they pulled out, they wouldn't be cutting somebody's yard to get back out onto the highway. But it was primarily to get the bigger trucks off the road so that they wouldn't have to block traffic.
okay, so, okay,
Because there wasn't anything in there that would accommodate the larger semis.
And you gotta go quite a few pages back to get to the next one. It's at section 511, which is on page 49.
so section C of the off-street, on that, does that mean people can or cannot park there during regular hours? Section C of 311, 311C. It sounds like they can park there, but then it says they can't park there for off-street parking, like for parades. Does this apply everywhere in the village?
The off-street parking?
Yeah,
No, the off-street parking does not apply to the downtown area. See, we had to separate the downtown area from the business area, like the store here, so people couldn't actually park on 424 out here. That if your building's at a certain size, or if you're designated with a certain zoning area, you have to have off-street parking, which means like the bowling alley, they have to get their cars off the street. They can't park parallel on the street because the street isn't wide enough. It was never designed for parking on the street like the downtown area is.
okay.
So we pretty much designate just the downtown area. It's the only area that has street parking.
Street parking.
Everything
So-
else will have to be off-street.
So this off-street parking that it's passing for semi-trucks or whatever, that will only apply to that area?
Well, it depends on the zoning, how it's zoned.
Okay, so B1. Oh, no, okay, except in B1.
And B1 is the downtown area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's B2, it would be,
They have to furnish parking.
Section 511.
And that's on page 49.
Yeah, any person who resides, owns, or leases property or operates a business within the village. What exactly would the complaint be?
Well, the reason that was established is because we felt that if there's any complaints of anything pertaining inside the village, that you either had to live within the village, you had to own a business within the village, or lease within the village. So people from Hicksville couldn't come over here and say, hey, I'm sick and tired of the way this is being done, it needs to be changed, tie up zoning or whatever over frivolous stuff that didn't concern them, but yet they could still, cause a lot of headaches with it. So
this is not in necessarily regards to certificate of occupancy, which is right before.
right, it's just that you have to be inside the village, either a member or own business or lease property inside the village, to be able to file a complaint on anything pertaining inside the corporation limits.
Okay, for any kind of complaint.
Yes.
Zoning complaint. Okay.
So if you come out, you live out in, say, the other side of the river, and you're complaining about the way the streets are in Antwerp, too bad. You don't live here, you have no right to complain about the quality of any of the streets. That's only for people who live inside the corporation limits.
Gotcha. Okay. So Melanie, how would we know that section 511 only pertains to, because of the wording it uses in that first sentence, whenever a violation...
I did not look at the substance, I just captured what I found
Okay.
Friday afternoon when I dug this out and realized it needed to be done.
Because
so I don't know, you'd have to ask probably Gabe.
Because I would look
what
back
this
in,
means.
5 years down the road, somebody reads that ordinance or reads this and they're like, well, what ordinance is it even referring to?
And again, you can adopt the recommendations, modify or deny. So you guys, this is
Okay.
in your hands. If you want to make modifications, this is the time to do it.
A violation. Well, what does anybody else think on that section 511? Does it make sense to anybody?
Sorry, I took it so
No,
long.
we're good.
Yeah, it says if you don't live in town, you can't complain about our zoning.
No, the sentence before.
The one before.
What this, like, if you were just looking at section 511,
Complaints regarding violations.
yes,
A violation of this ordinance.
which to me would refer to the part above it, which is actually specifically about occupancy permits.
And I
I
don't know
would
if in the
say this
definitions it
ordinance
says
would
what
mean-
this ordinance means. Usually that would refer to the zoning ordinance, but I'd look at the definitions.
Yeah, because when
Is there a definitions page?
there is a definition section, but I don't think that was modified.
But I mean, if you want to know what that reference means, maybe it's defined.
Okay.
Again, I don't know.
Okay, I mean, because it could just be me that I don't see what it's referring to if I was looking
And
at
again,
it. I don't know what it means
modifications,
today.
If y'all want to make it more clear,
It's the section he's talking, that he's referring
Maybe
to.
we don't go through it, but
Let's see here.
So I put it on the stack. And I'm like, oh, no.
Okay, definitions. That's the end. Okay, 513.
Yeah. That one I did, yeah. I don't know.
Definitions.
So Bryce, what are you seeing on that 511 that's rubbing you wrong? Or
Well, I don't understand, like, if I was just reading that, I don't understand what that first sentence even, what it's applying to. I do understand that it says that if you're a resident or you own property, you can file a complaint with the zoning. But when it uses like the word "this ordinance," I don't even know what it's applying to.
So we just need to
I think-
specify what
you
that
can say
ordinance is.
the zoning ordinance. You
Or
can put the
whatever.
word zoning.
Okay.
Well, I
is
mean, it
that-
couldn't
You know
apply
that
to
that's an
itself.
ordinance, right? It's
Yeah,
not.
this is an ordinance.
That's
What
the
you were
ordinance.
reading is, this is the zoning ordinance.
That's
what
where
that's
people have
called.
been getting confused because they think of it as a zoning book, but that is an ordinance.
So we need to add zoning in there to appease everyone.
Okay.
This zoning ordinance or whatever. Yeah, I
Yeah,
see
yeah,
what you're
I
saying.
Add
just
the
want
word
to,
zoning.
Yeah.
just for clarity, because
Sure. And that seems like an easy fix. And then the next two are the swimming pool ones, which we just went over, right?
so maybe what if we change it whenever a violation of any ordinance occurs?
Oh, I don't think it's any ordinance.
This ordinance, okay,
This
so,
is
This
zoning
zoning
ordinance.
okay, so then, this zoning ordinance then. Okay, because, yeah, thank you for clarifying that, because,
It's been a confusion for
good.
many years for a lot of us, isn't it?
and maybe could we say this zoning ordinance booklet, so they understand that it's this and not
It's-
22006
I just said
dash
this
26?
zoning ordinance. Because I mean, it's a complaint of this ordinance. I would say this zoning ordinance, because it is truly an ordinance. It's not a book. I don't know why
Okay.
that ever came into the lingo.
Then I would like that, to see that
This
changed.
zoning, okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I would
511.
refer to this zoning ordinance to make the complaint regarding.
Don't ask me to proofread
violation.
stuff because it wouldn't look any better if I did.
No, I
Okay,
think more eyes are better.
Okay. So then, and we're
Yep,
down to
we're
the
just adding
pools,
that
which
word.
is
903.
903 and 904 are the last two.
which is what we've been over. Right? That's the
Yeah,
one
and I
we
have
changed.
that one modification, if there's others, just let me know.
And the verbiage that was in there was copied from what, I believe the township, Carroll Township has the same thing in theirs, and that's what we basically copied and pasted into there.
So that 70-some pages, I don't want.
The one
I
that
want a
has
new
the
one.
modification.
Jason, you can keep that because I'm gonna get a modified version. So you can write on that if you need
Because
to.
we'll do one that includes these modifications, we'll ask Gabe to create that.
So 12 is the one we already changed.
Yes, we have the modification to sections 903 and 904 that the exception of a car safety cover only applies to the wall or fence requirements.
And we did that to section 11 and section 12.
903 and 904. Sections 903
Anything
and
in here for above ground pool?
That's just
that-
a copy for whoever.
The above ground pool, I think, was actually, this was clarified because the above ground pool already has like a height of 4 foot to try to get over. I think that was, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did away with the fencing completely for above ground pools. That was between the landowner and his insurance company. If the insurance company is good with whatever he's provided, then the city has no reason, the village has no reason to go in and add something else to make it more complicated. Because we're not in the business of micromanaging people's homes.
Right. Well, and I think in that one we discussed there was so many different types of above ground pools that you run into the inflatable versus the permanent versus whatever. Yeah. So understood on that one.
Okay, so I'm gonna call again. I had a motion from Dean. I had a second from Kenny. Bryce Steiner. Okay, wait.
Hold on a second. I'm not quite
Sorry.
there. And the only reason is I thought for sure I just read someplace that it said 6 foot fence and another place said 4 foot and one was crossed out. And I just want to make sure we're consistent on these places and maybe I just misread it.
I think it should be 4 because I think it was 48
Originally it
inches
was
and less.
It was, yes.
Oh, it was 6 originally.
It was 6 and now it's moving to 4.
On section 903.11, it says
That's
it states 4 feet in height reduced from 6 feet.
Mm-hmm.
That's for the private swimming pools only.
Yeah, non-commercial. This, yeah.
That's just for in-grounds. It does not apply to above ground pool.
Okay, on page 71, section 3, that same one, 904, seems to contradict the other part that we're changing. Do we need to change both in section 3 and then also on page 70? Where's that at? Okay, page 3. Maybe I'm just conflating the two. Not page 3. Page 71, we have 6 crossed out and we have 4.
That's correct.
And then on page 72, we have 6 foot.
And I don't know if that's because they're recommending for community and club pools, it does have the 6 foot. That's really a question for the Planning and Zoning Commission, because those are 2 different types of
Okay,
pools.
so that stays the same.
That's the
Yeah,
recommendation.
I believe that's for commercial.
That's for
Okay.
the community club.
So,
pools.
okay, so the safety cover is actually on both of them. It wasn't added to only residential, it was added to the commercial also?
No, commercial's another, the state regulates that.
The
And so we just went by
exception
what the
was on
state regulations and for the other
That's-
pools. When it gets
Yeah.
to a commercial pools, and what we run into is, say like you would have out here at Ollie's Addition, they would decide to put in a pool in the center for a
Yes.
community type pool. That has to be regulated by the state, because then it's no longer private, it's into some sort of an organization that's controlling it, which
Okay.
is more than one person.
That's what I thought on that also. So I think on page 72, we need to remove that exception from line item 3 of section 904. Because that one's dealing with commercial, and our zoning and planning didn't deal with the commercial.
But we have a section on it. And they call it community or club swimming pools. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Commercial.
Mm-hmm. I was referring it to it as commercial, but I know when I was at the meetings, they did not. It was for private only.
No, the version I received had that included as part of the recommendation, though, from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yeah, as far as I know, we tried to stay away from commercial because that's like they would put in a motel out here in this new addition they're planning. We don't want to get involved with what the regulations are or what the state requires.
I don't think that would be a community or club swimming pool, though. I would think like if you had a homeowners association that put in like a clubhouse and had a pool, that's what I envision, not like a
Business.
hotel
Hotel
that
would still
has.
be private.
Yeah, that's different. So and maybe I'm wrong. I mean, that's how I envisioned it, what they meant by community or club
Well,
swimming
like a
pool.
community pool, like in Hicksville, where they have that out there by the volleyball court, and that fence is 6 feet, I think.
Yeah, but that swimming pool cover was definitely for private residential areas. So I
So
would say that needs.
remove section 904 amendment, is that what everybody is saying?
I would say that 904.3, that exception removed. I think
Because
everything
that was
else.
the only change on 904.
Yeah, 'cause-
So we are denying the modification.
If
on
everybody
section
else
4.
is in favor of that, but that's what I remember in the meetings, the same as Bill. That's what drew my mind to the 6 foot versus the 4 foot, was having that in there.
We have parent-teacher conferences.
So we only have 30 days after a public hearing, and how should we do this going forward? Should we have a first reading, a second reading, then a public hearing, then our final reading?
Our zoning ordinance is very clear how you do it, and you have it in front of you if you want to look at it. So the way you amend this is under section 7, or article 7, I should
Page
say.
55.
So 703 deals with how it's initiated. So in this instance, it was initiated, these zoning amendments, because there was the Planning and Zoning Commission had made a motion, brought that to council, it was transmitted to council at the September regular council meeting. Once that happens, if that's the way it's initiated, so I'm limiting my comments directly just to that process. So once it's transmitted to council, council has to set it for a public hearing. So that's under section 708. that has to happen, there's a time frame. So upon receipt of the recommendation from Planning and Zoning Commission, Village Council shall schedule a public hearing. So said hearing shall not be more than 40 days from the receipt of the recommendation from Planning Commission. And then you have to do your notices that are under section 709 and 710 if applicable. And then 711, within 30 days after the public hearing required by, which really should be section 708, that says 408. Village Council shall either adopt or deny the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission or adopt some modification thereof. So that's what set this, the timeframes are set out in the ordinance.
Well, and it's not necessarily the timeframes as that. We just got the changes now, though, that had been approved 30 days ago.
Me too.
So I think that's where the issue lies.
Right.
And you may not even seen this, but I just happened to notice there was those minutes in the council packet Friday afternoon, and that's I started preparing an ordinance.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that copy until I had emailed Gabe this weekend and said, you know, can you send me a copy of this so I know what's coming up tonight rather than.
So you didn't see it until then?
Yeah, I hadn't seen the changes in.
So if we don't pass it, we're going to do another public hearing.
Yes,
Just the-
starts all over.
Have to put it in the newspaper
Yeah, you
too.
have to pay for the publication, you have to get the newspaper, and then you still have to follow those same timeframes. You have to do that within
Yeah.
not more than 40 days from date, and then you have to do the notice, and then you have to come back to council and act.
And if you guys wanna see it well in advance, then I'd stress to Gabe that he'd get it to you well before meeting night, so we didn't miss quandary. again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there's
definitely.
you know, something to say, hey, within 10 days of the meeting, that we could get a copy to review? I mean, I'm fine with the changes that were made now.
When's Gabe gonna have his surgery?
That's in January.
Oh,
That's why we're kind
Okay.
of canceled that.
Yeah.
So you want me to do roll call again? Okay.
Or do you want me to give my list of the modifications?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let me write the last one. Okay, so I have 3 modifications, which we will note in the ordinance that council approves the amendments to the zoning ordinance with modifications as follows. And then the modifications will be, as to section 511, to refer to this quote zoning ordinance to make a complaint regarding violations. As to section 903, that the exception of a power safety cover only applies to the wall or fence requirements. And as to section 904, the exception on power safety covers should not be included as to community or, I can't remember right now, community or club swimming pools and stricken. Is that it?
That's all I got. In the 15 minutes of time I've wasted, everybody.
Okay, so I have a motion from Dean, a second from Kenny. Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Jason Frank,
Yes.
Steve Jordan.
Yes.
Brian Smith.
Yes.
That was a motion to suspend.
I'll make a motion to pass.
With the changes,
With the
right?
modifications.
With the changes.
So maybe just put to pass as modified.
Okay.
Make a motion to pass as modified. Officially,
I'll second that.
legitimately.
Realistically.
Dean Reister.
Yes.
Steve Jordan.
Yes.
Bryce Steiner.
Yes.
Jason Franks.
Yes.
Kenny Reinhardt.
Yes.
And Brian Smith.
Yes.
They can always fix this, like, and we redo it again in another one, right? I mean, we're just accepting this. Okay.
Yeah, this is just, this ordinance will be though, just as I said it will be, because you
Right.
passed it.
Right.
That exhibit A that will need to be changed to show
Mhm.
that those 3 things are changed before it's attached. So that way, when everybody looks back at some point in time, it's complete. Does that make sense?
Should we have a
Clear cut?
resolution at all that asks our zoning person to have this within 10 days after the public hearing prepared for us?
Or
Takes 3 readings.
somebody, I was gonna say maybe just somebody talk to them and ask that be done. I mean, since it's never been asked of him before and it's not.
Could
like
we
he
bring
did
that up at the
something-
next zoning and planning meeting, that you guys get it and we all can get it ahead of time?
Yeah, we'll bring it up. December meeting, like I say, is at the time, it's set, but we don't have any business unless something comes up. It'll probably be canceled and there's no meeting in January, so we won't meet again until February.
That's fine, just, I guess, moving forward, and even if we got it a week in advance, just so we have a chance to
Right.
read through it, and so we can have this discussion, but all have our notes and versus doing it here and trying to break it down, so.
This is what's
Better
happening.
that.
I just feel so
So
unprepared.
he'll have.
Yeah, no,
highlight
I
it,
mean, they're
highlight
good
it,
catches,
and
it's
clean.
stuff that we
Yeah.
needed to see,
But it's
so.
gonna, who's it gonna go to first to make sure it was all changed to it?
Forget it. Thank you very much.
Okay, and the Rita report, we brought in Rita collected $33,615.51 in, October, paid to the village in November. And that's all I have.
You had the administrator's report in front of you. I just kind of did a calculation of where we're at with the different grant funding we're attempting to achieve. Starting to kind of get confused. We filed the paperwork for the water plant generator today. Got it in time, and we were notified by the state that it has been received. Railroad Street, we expanded the downtown business district, which we had to in order to qualify, so I'll take that paperwork and forward it to the state tomorrow. The one concern I got, and I may have mentioned it before, and if I have, just let me know, but, I met with ODOT over a month ago on this Erie Street sidewalk, and it's become painfully obvious the amount of funding we've received is gonna be woefully insufficient for what the cost is gonna be when it's all said and done. When you start doing an ODOT project, instead of a 4-foot wide, you gotta do 5 foot. You have to replace the driveway approaches, you have to do all these things. Whereas, if we want a sidewalk and we determine how we want to fund it, we can just go out and do it as long as it's in the right of way. We don't have to meet any of the standards. So it's one of the things I've asked the engineering company to come back
So
and
we
tell me.
can hire anybody we want, as long as they do it through our pool.
As long as it was under $50,000, yes, we could hire anybody we want. They were allowed to do that. And it wouldn't have to be straight, it could be curved, it could go around a tree, which is cutting a tree down, which you wouldn't have to move fire hydrants, water meters. So I've asked the engineering company to come back and tell me what realistically the cost would be if we pursued the grant funding from ODOT.
You can get it ourselves.
No, if we continue to deal with ODOT. I think we could actually do it for less than $50,000. But then the question begs, is there going to be a need? If you have the Family Dollar store or Family Tree store here, and the reason that we were looking to do it was because of the people walking back and forth, and now they have a place here. Are they gonna walk out to the Dollar General? And so then the question begs, do you need a sidewalk or do you want a sidewalk?
There's other businesses out there too.
Yeah, why don't you get some calls and see.
Yeah, there's still a safety issue with
I agree.
kids walking to school. The buses won't pick them up out there. They have to either walk or be with parents, so that's still something to consider.
Well, then the question begs that if we don't use ODOT, does the village want to pay for it, or do they want to assess the homeowners?
Get some figures and see.
Okay. Any other questions?
This Railroad Street, just 48,000, what all does that include?
Well, it's going to include some all new sidewalks from Maine to Cleveland on the side of the VFW. It will require some trenching and digging for new water lines to provide sufficient water flow into Mr. Cook's building. It's going to require probably a little bit of storm work, and then it will require complete new resurfacing of the road with new asphalt.
And in the process, we're gonna make full-in parking, right?
We're going to have parallel parking, and the street will be one way.
Right,
Yes.
okay.
So So it'll be nice when it's done.
Yes.
Hopefully we can bid out near the end of first quarter. So,
I don't know if this is related or not, but as far as like the water plant and the water rates and stuff like that, I had a person come to me, so I'll just present what they said. Their statement was they would prefer to see the water lines in town replaced before the water plant. I said I'd tell council, just because if you got concrete or lead lines, they're still gonna be breaking even if you replace the water plant.
well, we don't have any lead lines in the village. We do have some concrete and stuff, and I would not disagree with.
Yeah.
And in reality, it's gonna take a couple of years to have a water plant. So you're gonna generate revenue, and that revenue can be used to replace those water lines and get us in a better position for when we
Yeah.
are doing the plant.
Yeah, I don't think it was so much about, well, everybody complained about the bill, so, but it was more so about, if, you know, just changing the lines out first and then do the water plant, but it's like, well, I present it, because I don't disagree with that, they both need to.
I don't either.
But,
We've got dead-end lines that need to have looped. I mean,
yeah,
there's a plethora of projects we can do. This is, it just takes money.
Uh,
How do we go about making a list of what our top priorities are with that?
Curtis and I are gonna sit down
Okay.
in the next month, take a look at our current drawings, what is and what isn't, what's plastic. If it's plastic, we don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But if it's concrete, those will be probably the priorities in the beginning.
mhm.
So we have water meters that we have to replace. So it's just, it's a timing issue and a cash flow issue. Just like every other business.
Oh, yeah.
No,
You know where all the plastics are?
I'm hoping Curtis does. I do not.
Yeah.
you don't have it in your little notepad?
No.
I do have a question. We, at the end of this afternoon, we received a report today from you about the county water.
Regionalization.
Yeah, is that something to discuss now, or is that something that we're just supposed to read and bring back our thoughts?
I think you're better off reading it, and then we can have a discussion about it.
Okay.
It's a preliminary report by Westler Engineering, and the cost would vary somewhere estimated between $26 and $31 million. The big question is, don't get hung up on the cost. The question is how much state funding we can get. I mean, if the state gave you $30 million, what do you care? It costs $31 million, $20 million. So
Right.
that's the beginning process. The commissioners are actively taking and reaching out to other areas in Ohio that already have done this, to meet with them to determine what is it you liked about it, what did not work, and then there'll be many meetings ahead.
Okay.
This is probably a 5-year deal,
Okay. Minimum.
probably.
Are we still paying money into that study?
No, it's a one-time, and I think our share was $4,800 for the study. I was actually very surprised at the level of detail for the amount of money that they charged.
Yeah, I haven't read it all, but it's pretty impressive.
A lot of it was obvious, you know, just because,
Yeah.
because we're dealing with it now too. Is that something where we wouldn't buy a new water plant and then do that too?
That's correct. It'd
Okay.
be either or.
Okay.
So would we wait then to see what funding is available then before we move forward, or how does that?
I think we run on a tangent until we get to a point where one is more attractive than the other. I mean, I don't want to sit back and they spend 2 years on a study only to find out that we still need a water plant.
And then we're 2 years behind,
Exactly.
and 2 years of inflation.
Yeah. We can do whatever we want up to the point in which we accept a bid. So,
We attended that meeting today with the commissioners and with Westwood, and primarily what they did was present us with the options. They gave 4 options, one option being don't do anything. And they presented us with the options and a shot at what they felt was gonna cost, what they felt were gonna be the best options. It's pretty interesting, but it's gonna be a long drawn affair. And they recognize the fact also that we've already done a study and have come up with our own idea of doing our own plant. So they recognize that, but they're they were very thorough. We were both very impressed. And
A lot of detail.
after the first year, there's going to be another series. I don't know how many of meetings to go forward from where we're at.
Okay.
They did say, just a sideline, that the state of Ohio did a study, and Antwerp has been recognized as the most progressive and going to be the fastest expanding village in the northwest part of the state
Is that right?
because of 24, 111, and 49. And they recommended that in the year 2042, which is 20 years from now, we'll be at 2,000 over population, as opposed to 1,600 something where we're at now. And our water system can't keep up with that growth. So something got to be done.
What did they say that Paulding's water system is capable of? Because they want everybody's to run off of that.
I've got it written.
You know, we can worry about this.
It's 300 and some million gallons.
It said, I think 3 million gallons a day.
Yeah.
But is that enough to take care of?
It is.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's tough.
Hey,
We're,
can't
we're
work.
consuming somewhere in the neighborhood of 150,000, and I had an unsolicited quote on a water plant come in, and it would give us 650,000 gallons a day.
Okay.
And that's
Paulding's
one pump.
Paulding's can only do 821,000 gallons a day.
Oh.
Their capacity is 1.2, but they're restricted by their filters.
Oh, okay. Their
They-
pumps then might be able to do 3
Is it-
million, but their filters can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they,
Yeah, I mean, they were gonna have to make some modifications to their plant.
yeah.
Okay.
They have the ability to pump 3 million a day. They
Yeah.
just, like you said, they have the filtration
They
system.
had-
that has to be.
One of my problems with drinking the water out of Flat Rock Creek was all the farm ground runoff from the fertilizers or chemicals.
And that's been recognized, and they won't take water during the harvest season or the farming season. They won't take water out of Flat Rock and put in the reservoir because of the algae blooms, like we've had in Toledo Lake area and down in Salina. Because the fertilizers create the algae blooms, and then the water's dead. And you just can't use it. So they're recognizing that. Another thing they're recognizing is, what if we're getting our water from Paulding and Antwerp has a heck of a fire, or Payne has a heck of a fire, or they both do at the same time. They want the capability of providing us with all the emergency needs as well as what we use at standard times. So they've really thought everything out.
Does it also include the potential to add Oakwood in that study?
Oakland was not mentioned.
Okay. 'Cause that
This
Tim had
was
mentioned
for
Oakwood at one
Paulding,
point.
Antwerp, Payne, Paulding Township, Harrison Township, and Carroll Township.
Okay. I'll look through it.
It's
It's enjoyable reading.
He said it was very good for insomnia.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Yeah.
one of the things he said today.
I'll just wait for Dean to read it and he can send me the bullet points. That's all I have. Oh, by the way, we're getting our Gator one tomorrow being delivered, and then the other one is coming. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
It's that week one.
I-
That rotates through the council.
That's up to Mr. Curtis. I know who won't be getting it.
Right.
Okay, do you have any other committee reports?
No, but when we have this insurance,
I got a financial committee report. And finance committee met, and we met over the fact that our insurance, health insurance rates for the village employees is estimated to go up 26% for a renewal this year. It's pretty significant that the financial committee wasn't comfortable making a full recommendation to council without at least letting council know, and we weren't gonna make a financial decision without letting you guys know on which directions we needed to go. There's some options for renewal. That's what this paper is here, that kind of shows we can change some deductibles. There's I guess this is kind of new to me. This is a different paper I was looking at than before, but regardless, we need to figure out what we want to do as a whole for supplying insurance needs for the village employees, at least moving forward.
Those are the two that we have.
Yeah, got,
Brian was missing on the first one.
right, so this one here's got Brian on it now, because we've got to add, Brian's getting added in this year. He had insurance prior to this year when he was in commissioner's position, which he will be no longer being in that position starting next year. So now we're going to provide him insurance as we do the rest of the full-time village employees. So that was an added expense on there. As you can see, our estimated annual premium was $59,400. It's going to go to $200,000 plus.
159.
I thought I said 159.
You might have, I'm
said
sorry, I thought
59.
you said 59.
So when we looked at it in the financial committee, we kind of was leaning towards alternate option number 2, which would be raising the deductibles and then adding everybody in. And then we're only looking at about a 12%, which is still more than what we're ever used to adding. I mean, usually our insurance, I think, is like 6-8% or something like that, just kind of as a guess. But when they come to us and said 26%, it's like that's a huge increase. So now we're talking about meeting with the financial insurance broker, is it? And financial committee is going to re-meet with them and ask more questions about why it's went up and see if there's any other options that they would support our village for trying to provide this insurance benefit. So I just kind of wanted to let you guys see all this and let you know that we're still, I guess, working on it for now. I don't think there's anything we really need to do tonight with it right now.
And
Part of the
this-
reason it's probably gone up is A, cost, everything's gone up, but B, we're a small pool of people, and I don't know how much you guys know about insurance and that. Like, I worked in the medical field for 13 years, so I dealt with a bunch of this stuff, but with us only having a limited number of employees, we're with a larger group, and if that, you're affected by whoever's in your group. So if our pool is sick, like we may have six healthy employees, but if the other 100 people in our group, 50 of them have epic issues, then that's going to drive up the cost. So it's
That's what they're gonna come and tell you.
It's
that's
risk.
probably, yeah, it's part of it is out of our control relative to that pool of people. So
So you guys can kind of see the numbers. If there's anything that you can think of that you think that we might want to try or do, or have any suggestions on what we do, now would be the time to kind of let us know, and then we'll take that information with us in our next meeting when we meet with the broker and see what kind of solution we can come up to. I think we're kind of on a pretty good time crunch because we got to pass the budget next month. So I
well,
think
and for
we're
their
going to meet.
insurance, to get everything lined up.
Yeah, because this is part of our budget, so we'll have to figure out which direction we're going to go with insurance. Whether we just redo it the way it is and absorb the added cost, or if we want to switch options or change deductibles or things like that. I guess when we meet with the broker, we'll find out if there's any other deductible options or something that might help the village too. But we all kind of know that we don't keep our village employees like high wages, but we do offer a pretty decent benefits package, and we would like to try to stay true to that.
Are they getting competitive quotes, or are they just sticking with First Insurance?
Well, this First Insurance is a brokerage that looks for medical coverage for us within, I think, our group.
If you
Or
From several
From
different.
Medical Mutual of Ohio is the insurance.
Yeah, but they did
We have-
Blue
They did
Cross,
Anthem.
they did Blue Cross Blue Shield,
you
they
have
did
another one?
Aetna, they did Anthem.
initially, we did
It's just they were really
Insurance.
high, and finance kind of brought them down to these.
Yeah.
They did the
I'm sure
Affordable
they're
Care
all
Act.
similar.
What do you say?
I said I'm sure they're all similar. It's probably really
A lot of it, I mean, I deal with First Financial
Yeah, here you go. So there's Medical Mutual, Anthem, UHC, and Paramount, and they're 159, 185, 195, and 157. So they're all basically about the same. And then when you can get whatever insurance plan you want, because they'll just run your deductibles, the out of pockets, and all that stuff up, and I mean copays and things like that. So you can always cut costs. It's just what falls on the employees. Like negatively. So, if that makes sense. I
And
mean,
just one thing I wanna add to this is, we don't get these rates from our insurance companies until the end of October, beginning of November. So every year it comes down to not being able to do anything about this until now.
Until
So,
November. It's
yeah,
been that
it's
way
not
ever
so-
since
I
I've
mean-
been on council. And I've always said, why? And I get told the same thing every year. That's
And-
because they don't release the information and don't tell us.
and then they're on a time crunch. Like, we have to enroll, like, soon. She called Thursday, she called again today. They need us to enroll to be able to have us covered for come January 1. So, again, we're on a crunch and that's why. But
Are we scheduling
Yep.
with the broker? Do we have that?
Wednesday, November 30th at 5:15. The finance committee will meet with the broker here in town hall.
so are we gonna have to have an emergency meeting to pass all that stuff? Like,
No,
once
we can.
for them to have. Well, yeah.
I guess we'll kind of get from more information from them. But if council's kind of okay with us just kind of moving forward and seeing what's going on with the committee, we can make a recommendation at the next meeting, and then we'll have financials after that.
Well,
'Cause we're
usually
in
there's a
December.
Have it at
motion, yeah. Usually there's a motion to.
Except
on
the
rates.
insurance.
Yeah.
Accept the insurance rates.
And then that same day, we have the budget and the insurance, or the salary guide
Yeah.
there by finance, and then you guys just pass it all. But we also have that last week of December where we have an emergency meeting for the stuff we couldn't pass. But insurance can't wait that long for sure.
So what's our time frame on insurance exactly? When are we looking at we need this motion passed for which one we're taking?
I would say at our December meeting, but I think, if Alex says that night when you guys meet with her that they have to have it before then we have to have an emergency meeting for it.
Okay.
She'll tell you that night.
Okay.
So she will be there as well as Ken. Is that good?
I believe so, yes, unless council wants to move forward now and make a recommendation on what we've got in
No,
front of us.
I would rather wait till you see what you find out. But, that's my opinion.
I'm all right with that.
As long as we've got time.
I didn't ask her that. Like I said, she called and left me a message Thursday. She called me again today. I told her that we were meeting tonight. I kind of left it at that.
Okay.
And we're just meeting her to see why the costs have gone up.
We're gonna go over options and find out if there's alternative options and things
And
like
when are
that.
you gonna do that?
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Not this Wednesday, but a week from Wednesday.
So why don't we, you'll have to call a meeting then.
Once we figure that
We
out,
already
once,
did. We already have it all scheduled. That meeting
it's a
is
financial
scheduled.
committee meeting.
I know that,
Okay.
yeah, but I mean a council meeting too.
Well, once we get through that, I suppose we can figure out if we need to. If she tells us we need to move, then I'll get with you and we'll have to schedule a
Right.
emergency meeting to cover insurance, and then we'll make a decision from there.
Now, do you want Mel
We'll
at that
review it pretty
finance
good, and then
meeting?
we'll make a recommendation to you guys.
Do we cover just the employees or the entire families?
Employees and families.
So the entire family, okay,
Yeah, these rates are for family rates.
okay.
I think they offer, obviously, you can do employee, employee spouse, employee family.
Mhm.
That's just these are probably just whatever
Mhm.
will fall under.
It
I'm
all
sure that all
falls
the
from
options
the-
are available.
Yeah, it falls
Do whatever you
can
want.
change that.
You can get whatever you
It
want.
goes from the original, and then they got what it takes, just keeping what we got, and then to renew it. That's the two numbers that you see on this page, and then there was the other couple little options that they had on the back, changing the out of deductibles. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
So that was our financial. That's as far as we got with that. But it's coming, and we're going to have to make a decision,
Mhm.
and it's not a good one.
Mhm.
It's a pretty significant, and as far as I know, a lot of insurance. I talked to my personal company, and they said ours was a pretty significant increase this year too.
Mhm.
So it's just something we got to deal with.
Okay, we have any old business?
I do if nobody else does. Old business, Steve had talked about our recruitment for the fire department's very low, and we're having trouble getting people in. I took Steve's suggestion and we talked about it, and we kind of just went over a few things that we thought would be a good idea. I sent Tim Copsey an email, and I'm using Steve's pretty much the brains behind the idea was to have what they call a recruitment day, where we get the fire department to set things up, have some food and beverages and things like that, and just kind of get people, try to see if we can't get some interest for some young people to come out and take an interest into the fire departments. So I went a little step forward and I sent the email to Tim Copsey, and I told him where we started with that, and I suggested to Tim Copsey that possibly the county could do that, get all the fire departments together, get everybody to throw something in and have a big day. And he thought it was a good idea, and he's kind of going to run with that a little bit and see where that goes too. But I definitely agree with Steve that, if there's anything that we can do to help recruitment for the fire department, and it's statewide, and as Steve said, a lot of it is just because of the mandates from the state for, what is it, training mandates.
I talked to Roy Kaufman's our new state representative, and Mark Holsberg today had both of them cornered, and I've talked to them before, but reaffirmed what we've been saying, that they need to do something at state level, and they're recognizing that the state's starting to say, yeah, maybe we've overshot our bounds, so they're going to work at it from their end also.
So we're trying.
Do our fire department get health insurance?
No, they're all volunteer.
And they cannot if they're volunteer. Is that correct?
They used to get, when I was on, we used to have the option of getting our own, but we paid for it ourselves. Everybody had it, and it was designed for volunteer firemen, and everybody had it. You couldn't afford not to get it, but the town doesn't first, or the state.
We do pay for their physical and stuff though for when they're trying to become a firefighter.
So, but our liability insurance provides probably a life insurance policy with them for that.
We have firefighters life insurance
insurance.
thing,
The
as well
only
as
thing they get
EMS.
is if they are killed in line of duty,
It's called a child's.
they get their
Dependent fund.
free ride through college.
We just selected
We did.
members to that board, didn't we?
Correct.
Okay. So that's all I had on old business.
New business? Okay. My mayor's report. This month, money to the city is $224. To the state, $141.50. Indigent drivers, $450, with a total of $370. Anything from anybody else, or a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Kenny Reinhardt, Steve Jordan,
Yes.
Bryce Steiner,
Yes.
Jason Frank,
Yes.
Dean Reister,
Yes.
and Brian Smith.
Yes.